Hello everybody, welcome to the second episode of BURG Sounds. Today we're going to explore one of the lead sounds that I did on my latest track. This was done on the blofeld, and here it is, a new machine in my setup. I just had this for a little while, and I wanted to give you guys some insight on how I built this main lead sound on this track. I will go through the building blocks, the main parts. Since I'm technically recreating the sound from scratch, I probably won't be able to get exactly to the point where I am in the track, but let's hope that I get close enough. Okay, so I have this currently set up to an init sound. So what I want to do is just straight off the bat turn off the velocity, because I hate that, because in general when I'm creating sounds, I'm creating all the expressive features that I want to have with filters and modulation and pitch bends and whatnots, and also on this guy we have aftertouch, which is nice. So I want to be able to decide what the actual expression, the shape of the expression will be based on sound design rather than the velocity, right? But velocity is good for pianos and organs and stabby sounds or like bells and stuff like that, but this particular sound doesn't require that. Okay, going to Oscillator 1, I'm going to start with setting that to a pulse. Let's see, here we have shape, sorry, wrong direction, there we go, shape, pulse, and I want to change the pulse width a little bit, push this a little bit to the left, and also at the same time, obviously what I should have done here, I should have pulled this down to 16. That's where we want to be. So let's change this a little bit and add a little bit of pulse width modulation. There we go. Let's see. Currently we're being modulated by LFO1, so I want to go to LFO1 straight away. Just click here, this one, and I had the speed, make it a little bit slower. So that's my but the bass part of the sound. The next oscillator I want to add is a sawtooth, and while doing so, let's do it like this, that I just silence the pulse. So now I have this, I want to have on 16 as well. And what I want to do is also detune this just a slight bit. You won't be able to hear that when I'm just taking one of these guys, but I'm going to add a second one, also shape sawtooth. There we go. Come on. And this I will detune in the other direction. So get a little bit of that phasing effect, right? That's what we want. So oscillator 2 is going up, oscillator 2 is tuned down, okay? Okay, so let's turn on the square again. I'm going to pull that back a little bit. Alright, next up, what I want to do is to control the pitch bend range, and I want to do that differently because oscillators 2 and 3, I don't want them to be affected at all by the pitch bend. So what I'm doing here is that I'm taking just oscillator 1 and scrolling to the bend range and making that 7. So that gives me like a this kind of range. And oscillator 2 we can just take down to 0 bend range, and also the same for 3. Oh, come on, there you go. So what happens? So I'm technically just pitch bending oscillator 1. That would be the square, that has pulse width modulation, so I could do really fun. Which is really useful for what I'm about to do. Okay, now going to the envelope. Obviously, we want to start working with that. So let's do an amp envelope to start with, and I want to have a short attack on the sound. Let's bring the decay a little bit like that, and end it off with a little bit of release. There we go. Okay, now also at the same time I want to create a filter envelope. Let's just make the curve first. I want to make it quick in the beginning, a little bit like that. And do the same here with the sustain, maybe a little bit different, shorter with a different release. Now, in order for me to enable the actual filter envelope, I need to go to the filter section again. And in the filter section you have let's see, where did it go? Scroll down. There we have filter modulation source. We select, you guys remember which one it was? Filter envelope. There we go. All right. And then the amount. So when I pull down, there you go. This is without. Maybe I want it to make it a little bit quicker like that. Okay. Back to the filter. I want to change the character of the filter. The blofeld has quite a big amount of different filter types in its system. So right now we are on low pass 12, 24. There's a 12 dB. There's a bandpass, there is a 12 dB bandpass as well, there's a high pass, and so on and so on. But what I'm interested in is the PPD, old style low pass filter type. So okay, continuing to this, I want to start adding some modulation, and two types of modulation that I want to do. First off, I want to make sure that this attack that we have on the filter envelope, on the amp envelope, changes depending on how hard I press on the velocity. Now, this is done by going to the matrix section where we have the modulation matrix, and on the left hand side you have the source, right hand side you have the destination, and I want to select velocity. Let's scroll down to velocity. Come on, I just selected the wrong one. This will take a little bit of time, getting used to scrolling around, and that's velocity. And the destination needs to be amplifier envelope, AE. Let's scroll down to find that guy, see where it is. And that's a filter envelope, there we go. AE attack. So what I want to happen here is that when I press harder on the keyboard, it will actually remove the attack from the sound. So I have to make it a negative value. So let's That's nice. So we can actually make the attack a little bit longer, Right, it still sounds like I have some velocity going on. So let's go to the cutoff and see if I have any modulation going on from the envelope. No, there's none. All right. Key tracking as well is important. I want to make sure that the lower note I have the darker it gets. So this is important for the style of sound that I'm creating. Maybe it's a little bit too long. Let's do the filter envelope. Okay. So now I've done the 3 oscillators, I added some filter, I created, a simple envelope for both of these two guys. And also in the oscillator section, you have the capability to select how the voicing is supposed to work in the box. So let's have a look at the allocation. So the oscillator common, right now it's no unison turned off. I want to add dual unison mode. This way I can do a little bit of detuning. We give it some width. Okay, so maybe a little bit more resonance. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so second I also want to add some modulation to the pitch, and by doing that I need to go back to the matrix, and what I want to do here is to add frequency modulation to subtle, it needs to be really subtle. That's too much. Okay. So what I have now is that I have modulation on 1 and 2. One is the the velocity, right? And then I have, and also want to add a third option. Use the off-the-touch pressure on the keyboard to open up the filter just a little bit. So let's go to modulation slot number 3, and let's find the source. Source should be pressure, right? And destination needs to be filter 1 cutoff. Let's find that. That's the one. Okay. And open up the amount. So next up, I'm going to add some drive to the filter. Filter section has a drive unit. You can select how much drive and what type of drive you want to use. I want to use the one that's called pickup 1. I don't know if this is supposed to emulate like a guitar pickup or something like that. Not sure, but this gives me the type of grit that I'm looking for. It actually cracks up and breaks the sound in a way that almost mimics a trumpet or a trombone or something like that. So let's see what it sounds like. Okay, I have to lower the volume out now since I'm pulling up the drive. So let's go to the filter. Sorry, wrong one. Key tracking, lower down here, or open up there. Let's go back to film. Okay, so that's the main character of the sound that I was looking for. Might not be exactly as the one that you're hearing on the track, but still it's somewhat close, and it has the same building blocks as the one on the track. Maybe we want to lower the pulse width a little bit. There you go. That's nice. Okay, so one of the reasons why I want to keep the modulation to a minimum in the synth is because I'm going to use some of the external outward effects to reach the final goal. When doing modulation internally in the synth, when you have drive, it's important that you keep it to a minimum, because if you don't, stuff sounds weird quite quickly. So, I mean, just listen to this. It doesn't really like that, right, when you're doing the tuning. So I want to keep the modulation to a minimum and add modulation in the effects once I'm finalizing the sound. So let's listen to what that sounds like. So here I have the old trusted strymon timeline. Basically, I'm bringing out the big guns, right? Timeline and a bluesky that I'm going to add after this one. So I'm not bothered about the effects in the synth at all. So I have this algorithm called ICE, which is basically a shimmer type effect with a delay. And turning that on. And I want to, in the menu, there's a section called interval that actually decides, you know, if you're going to be like all octaves or, you know, fifths or seven or whatever. What I want to do here is to do fifths, right? So we're doing fifths. I'm gonna add more repeat. And in the effect, there is also a filter. I'm gonna cut a little bit off the highs. And also adding some modulation at the end. That's on the tail, right? So rather than doing modulation in the synth, I'm doing some modulation in the delay. That enables me to work more expressively with the solo sounds. That's becoming really nice. Let's take down the mix a little bit and more filter, take off the high end. It's beginning to sound pretty awesome. All right, also some more icing on the cake. We have obviously another strymon puppy over here, the bluesky. And this one has a setting called mod. Mode as a modulated reverb, and it's set to room, I think, yes. And that's my favorite setting because that allows me to add a little bit of extra wiggling on the tail. So this is just the reverb, and let's damp the highs a little bit more and the lows. Generally, I don't like to have too much highs. Comes to, you know, hard to mix, right? So take it down a little bit and also, you know, damp the lows. Make it really long. And then add the delay. There it is. All right. Might not be the same sound as on the track that I did previously that I referred to. Anyway, I'm going to put the link at the end of this video so you can compare. Hopefully this will give you an idea of how I generally like to think about sound design, right? I work with the synth first and create like a good bass sound, like a bass, not like a bass do-do-do, but like the foundation of the sound. And then I use, then I extend the sound design to the effect pedals, right? So I always see the part of the synthesizer as the building blocks, like the first piece of the puzzle, and the effects always are added on top. Hopefully this will help you guys thinking about a little bit, you know, how, help you guys think about, how I work with my sounds. And also, hopefully, it will give you some extra ideas on how you can, meddle around and fool around with your own stuff. Okay, thank you. So don't forget to subscribe. And also, if you like my stuff, please consider supporting me on Patreon. That will help me a lot to achieve my future goals and making more and more of these types of videos. And also, obviously, to make some more music for you guys. So, okay, thank you, everybody. Have a good day and see you soon.